My dad bought this camera in the 1970s, early 1970s, when my older sister was born. When my dad died of a heart attack a little under a year ago, then I inherited his camera, old Konica. I have a picture of Dad with his camera around his neck in the late 80s. We were in Utah, Canyonlands. We were out hiking, and he was giving me my first photography lesson. He was teaching me about composition and framing. After Dad died and I inherited his camera, I decided to do an experiment, and that is to once a year shoot a roll of film in his honor. And so this is my first roll of film, and I'm getting towards the end of the roll. So today I'm just gonna go hike and use the camera and record some stories about Dad, and reflecting on missing him and just grief in general, loss, things I've been working through this last year of missing him. And yeah, so let's hit the trail along the Manistee River, and let's see what stories unfold and what pictures we can take. This is the second chapter in a series on my dad's camera. Because I spent the first section of the hike talking about the camera and shooting film, by the time I transitioned to reflecting on missing Dad, I was a few hours down the trail and even further down memory lane. So this portion of the visual journal opens as I was taking a break to rest my feet in the river. And in addition to time on the trail, this reflection also includes the next day when I unexpectedly had the opportunity to paddle down the Manistee River from Hodenpile Dam to Red Bridge. Why keep Dad's camera? Like, why use that? I'm already shooting digital, and my wife has a Nikon FM2N. If I want to shoot film, I could already shoot with that. And so to ask this question, or begins to make me think through things, objects, and the people, the memories that we have within the connection. And you know, would I have gone out and paid for this camera? You know, probably not. But because it was Dad's, because he took pictures of the family with it, because it's part of our family, and it's a connection I have to him now to carry on. Joshua Fields Milburn and Ryan Nicodemus, the Minimalists, maybe you've seen their films with Matt DiVella. You know, they talk about, you know, instead of keeping the object, take a picture of it. That will be your memory. And for so many things that works. It's kind of funny, if I had to take a picture of the camera and then get rid of the camera, it's a different connection. Lose that connection. And so definitely for some things, a lot of Dad's stuff, yeah, it's getting rid of it, letting it go. But then there are other key things like this camera, like a couple of his kayaks, some of his tools, those things that I want to keep a connection to. It's just really meaningful to have those things. A second question is why am I recording out here on the Manistee River? And this is a river that Dad and I also had a connection to. I'm actually making 2 videos about this river, paddling with Dad here, and what a difference that made for our family, family memories for ourselves, and then the adoption of our son. And so that will be another video, but you know, this would have been us out paddling, and so perfect. I love it.
Me too.
Wow. Wow. Yes, this river was part of our 2-week trip, paddle-a-thon, fundraiser for our adoption. So this is where I wanted to come and talk about this camera that just is one of my important camp, came to paddle, just so many good memories. So just love it here. As I leave the water and get back on the trail here, keep moving down. I should add that Joshua and Ryan, they talk about the essentialism and adding value. Keep the things that add value. Don't just keep things that to them, or because they maybe represent something or was just part of life, but to really think through what adds value. If something adds value, keep it. Wonder what we could see out on this tree. So for me, whoa, yeah, there's a campsite out there. Oh, there are people. I'm gonna let them have their privacy. Whew. So at this point, those things I mentioned that keeping of Dad's at this point, like the tools, the kayaks, this camera, these are the things that add value, that bring richness to life, for me, hopefully for my family, wife, son. So that's one way of thinking through what do we keep and what do we just take a picture of and let it go. Like, my parents still have my trophies from high school, even like middle school, from sports days, races, or a mountain bike race, some different things. And those things, yeah, it's time to just take a picture of them and let them go. They don't need to take up shelf space. But things like Dad's camera, at least at this point, it still adds value. That still adds significance. Yeah. Looks. Oh, nice. Nice. There's this line I hear sometimes, mostly around photojournalism. It's to get the shot you need F8 and but F8 and be there. You know, it's not artistic, it's not as beautiful, but you're there, you're present. F8 and be there. You don't have to be perfect, you don't have to be a work of art, have it all together, but to be present, to be there, to be, however you want to say that, to be in the moment, to be there physically, be there mentally, emotionally. And that phrase I've been thinking about with Dad, F8 and be there. My dad was definitely there. He was there for me as a kid, you know, at the sporting, you know, at the events, as quarterback, giving me advice, drawing up plays together, and then out like this, taking me out paddling. In high school, we bought matching mountain bikes. He got us matching mountain bikes. Went all different stores and along the Front Range in Colorado, trying different bikes, and then settling on some. I mean, he would never buy anything new. He was super frugal. But he bought those bikes new, and just all the times we went out riding, dirt bikes, skiing, teaching me to ski out in the Pacific Northwest, and just, I mean, he was there. He was, you know, it's not an F2, F1.4. How to drill out new ones, put in the bindings to fit my boots and my balance. And, you know, it was not a work of art in any normal sense. Definitely in a Tom Sachs bricolage type of thing. Yeah, then I'll give him that. It wasn't an F2, you know, perfect type of thing. F1.4. Dad was definitely there. And definitely want to say, you know, Mom and Dad were different. Mom was there for me too in very different ways. She was the one that was there to talk with me, you know, be up late at night talking through stuff. And but Dad always was taking me, including me in his adventures. He was there, you know, as much as he was able. And so I just, you know, thinking of all the times Dad and I had, and now as a dad myself, thinking about my son, you know, am I there for him in the same way? Physically, but also, you know, emotionally. You know, we have time most mornings together, and but some mornings my thoughts are just racing on to the day, all that I need to do at the office, all the things I need to get done. Sometimes I'm on my phone when it's my time with him, and Dad was present. Am I present? Am I present in the same way? With my wife, with my son, with my friends, you know, with my community? Am I distracted, or am I present? John Gottman, I hope I have his name right. He it's been years since I read about him, but he used to, I read this thing once where he talked about how couples, marriage, or, you know, any couple, they have these bids for attention. You know, we're trying to share something with the other person. So much of the happiness and the satisfaction, the longevity of the relationship is how do we respond to those bids for attention, bids to share. And man, Dad was always there when I'd have new music. You know, the first time I shared Yngwie Malmsteen with him, and he became even bigger fan of Yngwie than me. But always sharing music, sharing adventures. Hey Dad, let's go check out this place. I want to go to this racetrack, you know, take our bikes, or I want to go to this place. And he was always he'd respond to those bids. And I don't know, I just think of how many times, you know, there's my son, hey, look at this, Dad. I'm like, oh, I'm busy, I'm in the middle of something, Casey, I'm doing whatever. And yeah, just thinking about, do I do as good of a job of paying attention to my son's bids for attention as Dad did to me, did for me. So, F8, just be there. Be there. Never know what you'll see on the Manistee River Trail. Live, laugh, love. That actually reminds me.
Almost Justin, I think.
Enjoy the potatoes.
Yeah, have a great day.
You too. That flag from North Korea reminds me of a saying I heard in South Korea. I hope I'm on the trail. Is this the trail this way?
Yeah.
Thanks. So I lived in Asia, in South Korea for 3 years, and I heard this line, the wise live forever, but the fool is already dead. And I asked a Korean friend what this means. The wise person lives on in all the people that they influence. And the fool, they've already essentially they've already lost everything, that they don't live on in any positive way in other people. But the wise person does. And that's another nice stream. Heading right out to the river, another tributary. And I keep getting distracted with all the beauty. Yeah, so this line that the wise person lives on, and recently I was reading Thich Nhat Hanh's book. I think it's called How to Live When Some peace activist, and someone I really appreciate, and he's in that book. He had a line similar to that our ancestors live on in us, like all the investment that they put into us, that we now walk forward with that. And you know, obviously in this time of thinking about my dad, and you know, missing him, and you know, wishing that I was going to be on this river again with him, that we loved it so much, and wish I could share this again with him, and you know, what I wouldn't do to give him his camera back and to have him back, you know. But that his wisdom needs to live on in me now, in my sister. His wisdom of how to live well, his wisdom about how to care for people, needs to live on in me. I need to pass that on, that his all the things that he was, that he lives his memory, his wisdom, his I'm not sure essence is the right word, but these beautiful qualities of him, they live on, and now it's up to me to live, to walk forward with those and to pass them on. Part of that is appreciating nature. He loved nature. He used to teach wilderness survival classes and just wanted to be out, always outside, doing something outside, when he wasn't doing music. But he just loved places like this, and so to pass that on. One time he was walking on the street, and he had long white hair and kind of looked a little bit like a hippie, I guess you would say. And this guy came out, this young guy, and said, "You look like you've lived a lot. You've had a lot of experiences. What advice would you have for a younger person like me? And what would be your wisdom?" And Dad's line was, "Stay curious. Stay curious." And the second was, he said, if I could add one thing to it, it would be to be kind. That was Dad's advice. Stay curious and be kind. That's who he was. Always learning, always curious, always growing. And I didn't bring it on this trip, but treat each other well. And so wisdom like that, stay curious and be kind. I need that wisdom to live in me, like that Korean saying, and like Thich Nhat Hanh said, stuff like that Dad passed on to me. I need to live it. I need to live it so that it gets passed on to the next and next and next. And that's what that phrase meant about, the wise live forever, that wisdom, as long as it's passed on. Places like this. Stay curious about places. Dad was always going on adventures. What's this new road? What's this new trail? What's this new river? Always curious. Always learning. I have not read the book, but friends have told me about it, about tear soup. And in some ways, these videos are my tear soup, going over and over clips I shot with Dad and figuring out how I want to tell the stories. And it's beautiful, just incredible. The idea with tear soup is, making this recipe, and it's different at different times, and it's different for different people, and the way I respond to missing Dad, working on these types of projects is different than what other people will do. We all grieve in our own way, and so I've had friends say these projects are like your tear soup, Jeff. So that might be, I wanted to read that book. I actually wanted to bring it on this trip, along with Thich Nhat Hanh. I brought a couple others, just to have some time in camp reflecting, thinking through how other people talk about dealing with grief and loss, and that can be anything. In my case, I'm talking about losing my dad, so it's death, but it can be loss of a relationship, loss of an opportunity. It's unlimited the types of loss we can talk about, and loss, grief, is such a fundamental human experience. There's just no way around it. I mean, we all experience it. Sorry, this tripod is loud. We all experience it. There's just no avoiding loss. We're all gonna lose grandparents, parents, just death itself, friends, children. There's just so much loss just in life and death, and then think about all the other types of things that can cause us grief. And so it just seems like learning to deal with grief well is a part of being a good human. A lot of people talk about it in different ways, like attachment and like not being attached, or trying to find hope in different ways, and all just different. Just people have, like, around the world, different worldviews, and even within a given country, different personalities, just different ways of trying to deal with grief. It's a good hill climb. But it seems like a fundamental endeavor. I would go out to the overlook, but more tents out there. I want to get in space. And so reading about how other people have dealt with it, lessons to learn. I just had to, since there's no escaping it, how to take it on. What's the Waylon Jennings song about the storm? Am I off trail? Maybe. Don't run from the storm, because there's no avoiding it. Such a good song, and I'm so bad at lyrics and remembering. But there's no running from grief. There's no getting away from it. We got to deal with it. I mentioned that I lived in Asia. I lived in South Korea, and another Buddhist phrase I heard, another saying, and I've since heard it in a lot of different places, is after enlightenment, chop wood, draw water. And it's like this idea, what do you do when you get enlightenment? You have this breakthrough, whatever that means. And well, then what do? They taught you do the ordinary things of life. You still gotta chop wood, draw water. You still have things to do to live. And through this time of loss, I've been thinking about kind of a similar thing on the other end. Like, there's an enlightenment that's maybe euphoric or ecstatic, or that's probably not anyway, a mountaintop type of thing where you have this moment, or this breakthrough, or this awareness that's at the high point. But that phrase kind of also holds at the low point, maybe in the same way. After loss, after death, in this grieving time, how do we move forward? How do we keep going? And maybe it's the same. We chop wood, we draw water. We want time to stop. We want the whole world to stop. But it doesn't. Nothing stops. It moves on. And after death, how do we press forward? A lot of us ask, how do we do this? And maybe that phrase holds true there. We chop wood, we draw water. It's one step in front of the other. It connects in different ways around campsites. I don't know, I'll keep walking. Yeah, so after enlightenment, chop wood, draw water. After the death of someone you love, chop wood, draw water. I was telling a friend recently, I'm kind of a person when I don't like something, something's not going well, I just kind of put my head down and push forward, and it's that mentality, this too shall pass. So I just need to keep pushing ahead, and we'll get past this, we'll get beyond this. But I was sharing how with a loss like this, like, there is no getting past it. There is no other side, like, to this stress. Like, every day it will be the same. Every day it'll be the same separation, the same emptiness. And so that mentality of just pushing through doesn't work with grief. We have to begin to process it. It's like, on the one hand, yes, we just chop wood, draw water, but also we have to deal with it, whether that's finding our ways to make tear soup, or whether that's talking it through with friends, or journaling, or therapy, or whatever it is. We can't avoid it, just like the Waylon Jenny say. So we chop wood, we draw water, and we get by with a little help from our friends, the community of support, the community that cares about us. We just do it one day at a time. We just do it one day at a time. So I've been thinking about, while hiking today, I've been thinking about that, like that self-care side, or that chop wood, draw water, and then get support. There's that part of taking care of us, and that's the whole physical and emotional, social, all those things that we need. And then I think the next step, moving beyond, and I'm not there myself, but I think the next step is helping others, that when we've gone through something hard, whether it is a loss or a death or an injury, or it can just be just all kinds of things. When we go through those hard things, then I think in time we can be the people to help others going through that hard thing, going through a similar experience. They're never the same, whether it's a loss or any other type of grief. It's never the same. But if we can support other people going through similar or related struggles. So for me as a Christian, as I think through it, what does that mean for me? And I think of Bible verses like bear one another's burdens. It's Galatians 6:2. And it goes so far as to say, and so fulfill the law of Christ. Like, bearing each other's struggles, holding each other up is like fulfilling what Jesus was talking about. And 2 Corinthians chapter 1 verses 4 and 5, where it says, the comfort that you receive, give that to others. In that verse, it's about the comfort we receive from God. We need to turn around and offer that. But that can be any comfort, any help that we gain. My sister is helping with a grief recovery group. It's something she's involved with, and hopefully it's speaking to her at the same time that she's there for others in whatever their loss is, whatever their grief is. And so things like that to heal step by step. We're never the same, and we're just never the same. But if we take that out and share it with others, and a lady, Ellen White, I really like how she says it. As an Adventist, she's important to me, and she says, through God's human agents, He desires to be a comforter such as the world has never before seen. Like, through you and me, she uses the word human agents, but like through people, we're to be the comforters. God wants to speak through us. It's like the touch, the kind word, the note that says you're not alone, I'm with you. Anytime you want to talk, I'm here to listen. That regardless of our faith, that's the next step for us in dealing with grief, dealing with loss. Get the help we need, and then and then begin to share that with others. Mosquitoes are starting to get me. I guess my insect repellent is wearing off, or sweated off. So I was talking about the need to encourage others as we begin to heal, as we begin to sort through our feelings, as we move forward day by day, still holding the person, the situation, the opportunity, whatever it is. For me today, I've just been thinking about my dad, missing him here. So my reflections have been on that type of grief of losing someone we love. But yeah, the need to encourage. But so often I hear Christians, instead of encouraging people, just say these hurtful things when someone's grieving. And you know, some of them are things like, you just need to pray more, you need to have more faith, and then this would be fixed, or this wouldn't be happening. And you know, God wouldn't let this happen to you if he didn't know you could handle it. Like, I thought it's just so much there to unpack. Ooh, here is another. Wow, let me swing around here. It's just amazing. I'm actually almost out of memory card here. Oh, that's gorgeous. I wonder if I could get a shot. Maybe I'll pause. I'll come back to this idea. I've got the main one is when Christians say that everything happens for a reason. This is God's will. Like, that's just garbage. Let's take a picture here and then see if we can break that down. All right, I got a shot. We'll see how it turned out. I don't know, but just can't believe how amazing this place is. Just love it. Love it. And as I was saying before that beautiful detour, say to each other, and that worst one, the one that's most frustrating, the one that bugs me the most, is that thing about, you know, this is happening for a reason. Like, this is supposed to happen. This is for a purpose. That, I don't know. I just think that's hurtful and wrong. So I used to volunteer for a nonprofit that was working against human trafficking. It was for the border. It's the border between Nepal and India, and trying to stop the trafficking across that open border. And like, if we have this idea that just everything that happens to us, you know, it's for a reason. God is doing this in our life or something. Like, do not tell me that all of those girls and you know, I studied peace at the graduate level, and in peace studies, you know, we're just looking at all kinds of human suffering. It's not just sitting around singing Kumbaya. It's looking at the world's biggest struggles and trying to think, you know, how we can meet that, how we can make those areas better. And you know, it's just one topic after another, from environment to different human rights things. And for all those abuses, like, to say all those things happen to people for a reason, I mean, that's just, that's just ridiculous. It's just crazy to me. I do believe out of evil, but all those terrible things that happen to people, you know, that's sin. That's not God active in their life. That's a different thing altogether. Don't say this happened for a reason. Somehow God is behind this. Sin is not God's will, and when we are devastated by the decisions of people, by just life, that things are out of our control, let's not blame that on God. I hate that phrase, calling things god awful. It's god awful weather. Hate that phrase. But if I believed, it's beautiful. If I believed that God really was doing all those things, like every rape and murder and every person that starves, like all that stuff was for a reason, like, yeah, then that would be a correct phrase, that God is against those things. So hopefully, yes, if we go through terrible things, we can, at a minimum, get to a place to offer that comfort to others, people that have been saved from trafficking, and how they can help rescue others. Like, yeah, God can bring good out of it. I think that's the point of Romans 8:28. Is that the right verse? That things can work together for good. God can draw out of it. You know, from a Christian perspective, we live in a sinful world where every act of violence, oppression, it's not God's will. It's not God doing it for a reason. Planet, our home, like this, where we are today, so beautiful. People who will take care of others, be a part of the healing process, not the hurting process. That's what God's in. That's the business God is in. If God is a God of love, then that's got to be it. I know Christians see these things differently and say these things all the time. See him, is it 3 friends? You know, as long as they were just sitting there quiet with him, yeah, man, they were being good friends then. They were present. I think it's called sitting, well, when it's lost, sitting Shiva. Man, these trails are so nice. Maybe I will go down here. I don't see any tents. Looks private. Off the trail. Look at a Chippy. Hi, Chippy. As long as they were being quiet and just offering emotional support, being present, you know, they were being good friends. As soon as they open their mouths and start blaming Job for his problems, I mean, that's when things fall apart. Like, yeah, so Christians, instead of saying anything besides sorry for your loss and I'm here to listen or here to be with you through it, here to help you figure things out, just be with you. When you're in the middle of the loss, it's hard to say much more than that. You don't need to say more than that. Unless you're a close friend and can sit there and really talk things out. Just let them know you care. last night by the campfire, I was making a list of the things I wanted to cover today, different things I wanted to think about on the trail. Spent the last 5.5 hours hiking the Manistee River Trail, thinking about Dad, taking pictures with his camera, and recording these reflections. I love being out here. But change, it's always changing. We've talked about the healing that we need to go through, caring for others, taking it one day at a time. But then as a Christian, Eric Clapton, he's saying, be no tears in heaven. It's quite a song, and that's the ultimate. That's the ultimate. That hopefully we encourage others here, little ways, big ways, being present with them, F8 and present, F8 and be there. But then the end, like I wrote this down with Isaiah 25:8. Talk. Like that's the final good point. No tears in heaven. But important work for us to do each day here, our own healing, so we can care for others with the hope of that day forward. So yeah, this has been my altar, this has been my tear soup. Thinking about Dad. I hope something, either you've been able to enjoy the beauty of this place or any of the reflections. And we will be making another video about this river and how important it was for our family, kayaking. So that'll be coming. That'll be a project in the works. Yeah. Thank you for sharing the journey. And if you watching this are dealing with your own loss, your own grief, I pray first that God will comfort your heart, and then secondly that God will send good people into your life to support, to be there for you, to listen. That someday you can be the one to give that courage and hope to others. But if you're going through the grief, chop wood, draw water with the people who care. had my boat all set, ready to go, and two ladies told me that they were waiting for a ride, pick them up, take them up to upstream, and the gentleman came while I was still here, and so he's going to take me up to Hodenpyle Dam, and I'll get to paddle the river today. So that was some unforeseen, it's an unforeseen blessing, a great change for the day. So instead of putting in here and trying to paddle upstream, I'm going to put in. So the Manistee River Facebook group, or Manistee River Trail Facebook group?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
To get a hold of you and get this spot. Nice. What are the names of your cabins again? Your
Lazy Bear Cabins.
Lazy Bear Cabins, alright. So this is the Manistee River just below Hodenpyle Dam. So my car is down at Red Bridge. I'll get out there. Got my dad's camera and the other electronics in the dry bag. Let's go for these ones. Let's see what we got here. Nice. Very nice. Great blue heron up here. As I'm out on the river today, has now become ours, and this paddle was one of his favorites, and this river, last time I was on this river, it was with Dad. Let's see. So we did this Manistee River as part of the big family trip across Michigan, and then later, after we'd adopted our son, we all came back together and did this stretch. Dad, Carissa, and it's just such an important family river, who we are, memories we shared. So being back on here, you know, yesterday hiking along and now so glad that Dad taught me to enjoy paddling, Mom and Dad, and you know, usually it was Dad sharing places to paddle with me. This is one of the few places I brought him first, saying, "Oh, I love this river, you gotta come check it out." So to be able to paddle with him, I think we did it a couple of times, and then the last time was after the adoption. So I haven't been back here since then. It's crazy it's taken that long, but life's gone other directions. Life gets busy. You know, I think right over there is where I recorded yesterday. The ladies were swimming right here and the other guys were coming down the water here. Yep. There's that spot. Look how clear this. Hope you can see, it's not too glary. Just incredible. So all this, you know, because Dad took me out, taught me how to do things, taught me to love it. That saying, the fool is already dead, the wise live forever, and the fool's already dead. And yeah, I gotta pass this on, these types of things. I'm in the shade. Thanks for the boat, Dad. Thanks for all the memories. You know, it's on one level, I know. I mean, I knew my dad was not going to live forever. That's just plain as anything. I'm floating backwards down the river. But we always want more time. Dad was making plans to come back this summer. Bike trails we wanted to ride. We talked about getting here on the Manistee. We're never ready for it to be over. Never ready for it to be over. In Dad's situation, my mom points out, like, it wasn't a tragedy, it was just, how life goes. He was 75, and we just had a lot of years to do adventures. We always want more. Always want more. Eternity is in our hearts. Even though we know that's not how this plays out. Thankful for all the adventures Dad and I had. Skiing, riding motorcycles, sports, and paddling. Seems like so often a lot of adventures, and so often a river ran through them. He taught me to learn to love to play in God's playground, and I'll always be thankful for that.